You decided to buy a red car last week, and now every third vehicle on the highway is red. They were always there. Your brain just started flagging them. That filter living at the base of your brainstem has a name, a measurable function, and a reach that extends into your beliefs, your income, your relationships, and the version of reality you walk around inside every single day. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly how a clump of neurons smaller than your pinky finger is quietly building the world you think you're objectively observing. And the unsettling part is that it's doing it right now, while you listen to this based on decisions you've already made about what's true. The structure is called the reticular activating system. It sits where your spinal cord meets the lower brain, a dense mesh of nerve fibers about the size of a pencil eraser. Its original job was simple: keep you alive. It decides what sensory information gets promoted to conscious awareness and what gets discarded. Every second, roughly 11 million bits of sensory data hit your nervous system. You consciously process about 50. That means your brain is throwing away 99.999% of incoming reality before you ever get a vote. So who's choosing? That little mesh of neurons. It operates on a priority system shaped by three things: survival threats, novelty, and this is where it gets personal. Whatever you've told it matters. The red car effect is the lightest version of this. You signaled interest in red cars. Your reticular activating system updated its filter. Red cars got promoted from background noise to foreground signal. The cars didn't multiply. Your awareness did. Now scale that mechanism up from cars to beliefs. In the early 2000s, researchers at Cornell ran a series of studies on what they called motivated perception. Participants who were told a task would be physically demanding literally perceived hills as steeper than participants told the same task would be easy. Same hill, same eyes, different expectation, different visual reality. The perception changed. Before the participants even started walking, their brains had already filtered the incoming data to match the prediction. This is your reticular activating system working as a confirmation engine. Once you decide something is true, money is hard to make. People can't be trusted. You're bad at public speaking. The filter updates, and it updates silently. You don't get a notification. You just start noticing evidence. A friend cancels plans. Normally, background noise, but you recently decided people always let you down. The cancellation gets flagged, promoted, highlighted in cognitive yellow. You remember it. You file it. Meanwhile, the 3 friends who showed up on time last week were processed as unremarkable and dumped. Your reticular activating system scored them as expected, which means boring, which means forgettable. The math starts compounding in a direction that feels like proof, but functions like a funhouse mirror. Psychologist Daniel Simons demonstrated something adjacent with his famous selective attention experiment. Participants watched a video of people passing a basketball and were told to count the passes. Midway through the video, a person in a gorilla suit walked into frame, beat their chest, and walked out. Half the participants missed the gorilla entirely. Their brains had been given a task: count passes, and the reticular activating system demoted everything else. A gorilla, visible for 9 full seconds, rendered invisible by a priority filter. Your beliefs work the same way. They're the counting task, and the gorillas you're missing are the pieces of evidence that contradict whatever you've already decided. This creates a loop that feeds itself. You believe something, your filter finds supporting evidence. The evidence strengthens the belief. The stronger belief tightens the filter. Psychologists call this a self-reinforcing perceptual cycle. It runs constantly, automatically, and beneath the threshold of awareness. You experience the output as I keep seeing proof that I'm right. The machinery producing that proof is invisible to you, and the loop doesn't care whether the belief is accurate. It runs the same algorithm for I'm terrible with money, and opportunities are everywhere. The filter is agnostic. It just follows orders. Here's where the mechanism turns from interesting to uncomfortable. Researchers at the University of Wisconsin studied long-term meditators using brain imaging and found that sustained attention practices physically altered the density of connections around the reticular activating system. The meditators had trained their filters. They could notice more, discard less, hold wider awareness, which implies the reverse. Without that training, your filter is running a program you inherited from years of unconscious belief accumulation. Childhood conclusions. Cultural assumptions. Offhand comments from a parent that calcified into architecture. You're walking around inside a perceptual building you constructed at age 7. And the building decides what sunlight gets in. The commercial implications alone are staggering. Marketing researchers have long understood that brand awareness works through this exact mechanism. Once you've heard of a brand, your reticular activating system starts flagging it in stores, on billboards, in conversations. The brand didn't suddenly appear everywhere. Your filter just started letting it through. Every advertising dollar spent is essentially a bid to reprogram your reticular activating system to get your neurons to treat a logo the way they treat a loud noise. Priority, flag, promote, but the deeper application is internal. Consider 2 job seekers with identical resumes. One believes the market is brutal and opportunities are scarce. The other believes the right role is findable with enough persistence. Both open the same job board. Both scroll the same listings. The first one's filter highlights rejections, ghosted applications, lowball offers. The second one's filter highlights openings that match, companies worth researching, connections worth reaching out to. Same data, same 11 million bits per second, different 50 bits promoted to consciousness. 6 months later, their outcomes diverge, and both will point to external evidence to explain why. The first will say the market was terrible. The second will say persistence paid off. Both are telling the truth about the reality they experienced. Neither is describing objective reality, because neither had access to it. They each lived inside a curated feed, assembled by a pencil eraser-sized filter, running a program they wrote without knowing it. This is measurable. A study published in Psychological Science found that people primed with words related to aging walked more slowly down a hallway afterward. Their motor behavior shifted to match a belief their reticular activating system had just absorbed, entirely outside conscious awareness. The belief didn't stay in their heads, it leaked into their muscles, their posture, their walking speed. The filter had bled into the body. So the question becomes, if your reticular activating system is going to filter reality regardless, if there's no opt-out, no way to process all 11 million bits, no unfiltered perception available to a human brain, then the only variable you control is the instruction set. What have you told it to look for? Most people have never deliberately answered that question. The filter runs on defaults, old fears, inherited narratives, the conclusion you drew when you were 12 and your project got laughed at and you decided you weren't creative. That decision is still active, still filtering, still quietly discarding evidence of your creativity before it reaches your awareness. 20 or 30 years later, updating the instruction set takes repetition because the reticular activating system responds to frequency and emotional intensity. A single affirmation bounces off it, a belief held with conviction, revisited daily, reinforced by action, that rewrites the filter over weeks. The same way the red car purchase rewired your highway perception in a single afternoon, a genuine decision about what's true begins reshaping what evidence reaches your conscious mind. The mechanism is automatic. The input is manual. Critics rightly point out that this can slide into magical thinking, the idea that believing something makes it materially true. Fair. Believing you can fly will not update gravity. The reticular activating system filters perception, and perception influences behavior, and behavior influences outcomes. The chain has real links and real limits. A belief about opportunity won't conjure a job listing that doesn't exist, but it will determine whether you notice the one that does. And in a world where most opportunities are missed through inattention rather than absence, that filter adjustment carries more weight than it seems. You've experienced this already in smaller ways. You learn a new word and hear it 3 times that week. A friend mentions a restaurant, and suddenly it's on every corner you turn. You start thinking about having kids, and every stroller on the sidewalk becomes visible. Each time, the same mechanism. Each time, the same quiet rewrite of what your senses deliver to your awareness. The only difference between those trivial examples and the ones shaping your career, your confidence, and your relationships is that the trivial ones are obvious. The big ones are invisible. They feel like the world, like objective conditions, like the way things are. They feel that way because the filter is too close to see. You're looking through it, which makes it impossible to look at. Every belief you hold is a search query running in the background, returning results 24 hours a day. The results feel like evidence. They feel like reality confirming what you already knew. And in a sense, they are. The confirmation is real. The evidence exists. You just never see what the search excluded, the contradicting data points that got scored as irrelevant and dropped before they reached you. Your experience of the world is a highlight reel edited by a filter you programmed accidentally. The editor is still taking instructions.